Good day, dear students. Welcome to the content-based conduct session for Diploma in Pre and Junior Primary Education, Mother Tongue Literacy Development 3, which is offered in Year 2, Semester 1. I will be your tutor for this semester, and I am Mrs. Shara Kavioha. Ladies and gentlemen, let us first go through the welcoming remarks, where I would like to make a very important note that all aspects that will be discussed in this presentation are equally applicable to mother tongue instruction. Therefore, although the module is written and studied in English, you are expected to respond to the assignments and the examination in English as well. But when you are teaching in mother tongue instruction, it is very important that you will have to apply this knowledge in teaching mother tongue instruction. So you transfer the knowledge that you have acquired from the English medium of instruction to mother tongue medium of instruction. Very important, before you attempt an assignment or the examination, please make sure that you consider the verbs, the thinking processes in your study guide, and make sure that you read each unit with understanding. Then you attempt the assignment or in preparation for the examinations. Firstly, we are going to look at the reading components, as they will be following each other during the presentation. And lastly, our main focus will be on the writing components. So our first focus in terms of reading will be how a teacher of pre-primary or junior primary should be able to select suitable reading text for the learners. It is a very important aspect that determines the interest of the learners. So first thing, as a teacher of pre-primary and junior, you must consider the learner's physical, cognitive, language, and moral development, as well as their interests and preferences. It's very, very important. Reading is a process, and it requires a lot of concentration. Therefore, it is important that you as a teacher considers the physical. Are these learners able to turn pages? The cognitive. Are these learners able to read and understand the content? The language that will be used, is it too formal or is it too informal? The moral development, what is the outcome of the reading? What is it that you want them to achieve, the morale, as well as their interests and preferences? Therefore, very important, you need to ask the question, does the book provide an exciting journey into the world of discovery? Picture book stories are very important at this level as they are young. So their main interest will be on the pictures, but ultimately the purpose of reading shall be fulfilled. Non-fiction picture books, these are also very important as they are covering a wide range of topics. Some of these are non-fiction books for young learners which provide help with solving problems such as starting school, a divorce in a family, death, or new sibling. Sometimes it's so difficult for them to accept that mommy is getting a baby or daddy is no more with us. So going through such books can also help them understand how to solve problems in their daily lives. To continue, consider the following factors when selecting books for the learners. You as a teacher, it is your responsibility to ask yourself the following questions or consider these factors. Is the author knowledgeable about the subject? In the sense that the way in which the book is written, is it in coherence? Does it really give you what you're looking for? Does the text keep your learners' interest by being clear and simple? That is what we want at their level. At pre-primary and primary, they have to be pictures to keep them following. And this story should be very simple and something they can relate to. Do the illustrations in these books support the text? There must be some correlation. A picture of a cat, and then the story must be related to the cat. Does the subject matter hold interest for your learners? A very crucial concept. If there's no interest, the purpose of reading will not be fulfilled. So these factors need to be considered. In addition to the factors, you need to ask questions in terms of searching for the right picture books. Question number 1, are the books you are choosing going to provide enjoyment? Taking us back to the factor, does the subject matter hold interest for your learners? Are these books you are choosing going to provide an overall positive experience? and teach them something along the way, as we have said, how to solve problems? Will it get them asking appropriate questions? Will you be able to draw from it or transition into other activities, if that is a goal, and which will be a good goal? So this book must help you fulfill the purpose of your teaching of reading to pre-primary and primary learners. Does the book contain large, simple pictures free of distraction? This is a crucial question that answers the issue of the learner's physical ability. Does it contain large, simple pictures free of distraction? Because too many details confuse young people. So it must be free of distraction. There must be large and simple pictures for them to relate to the content. Are the pages easy to turn? It's a very important one. Some of the learners could be handicapped, so it's very important to consider this. Board books, this for toddlers or children who have a physical handicap. So you need to consider this to accommodate the diversity of your learners. Allow learners who have not developed fine motor skills to successfully turn the pages. Some of them are still work around their wrist, so you need to make sure that the book that you're selecting is suitable for all learners within your class in terms of cognitive and physical abilities. Furthermore, selecting picture books continue. Another crucial question is the text written in a fast-moving plot with a positive closing? This is important because children's books often have a happy ever after ending, because the purpose is ultimately to get them enjoy it. So it must always end with a happy ever after. So look at the plot. How is it moving? Is it a straight line development of ideas? Because ultimately it must end with a positive closing. Will an adult enjoy reading the book? This we must always keep in mind as teachers, because who is there to assist these learners? If it's not you, then it is the adults, being the parents or the elder siblings at home. So it is best to keep in mind that your attitude toward reading will influence the learners. Therefore, the book selected by the teachers should consider the adults' interest too. Will they enjoy it or not? So that they are able to help the learners from home. Does the book help learners think about good values? Ultimately, this is a powerful one. Books for children they must preach or teach good morals. A message that embraces good values can be woven throughout in a very subtle approach. Very important, look at this, ask yourself, what is the value held by this book? What will it teach my learners? In addition to that, this book should be free of all bias, including age, gender, and race. Your book should be free of all bias, because teaching and working in a multilingual and multicultural society like Namibia, it is very important to treat everyone equal. So it's very important that when your learners are in the classroom, they all feel part and parcel of the class. Therefore, when you're selecting picture books, see to it that these books are free of all bias, that it doesn't cater only for a certain age and leave others out, only for males or for females, boys or girls, or only for some race, as it's only promoting some values that are highly or enriched in a specific race. So avoid that. What is the repetitive quality of the book? This is a very interesting question, because whatever you read to the little ones, it's important for them to keep on asking about it so that they can build on it, or even make it easy for you when selecting other books in future that will be in line to what they have interest in. So it's a very important question, that is this the one book that the learner will request being read to them several times? Lastly, does the language contain rhyming words, funny characters, and very important, an interesting plot, and a surprising or predictable closing? This will cheer them up. So it's very important to look at the language contained in these picture books. It must be rhyming to keep them following the sequence. There must be some funny characters to hold their interest, and a surprising or predictable closing. Good. Now that you have selected these reading materials, the picture books, asking yourself the different type of questions to make sure that they ultimately fulfill the purpose of your teaching of reading. We are now firstly looking at reading. Then it is the time you look at the most appropriate reading methods. During our presentation, we'll highlight all the methods, and as per the presentation, it is your choice as the teacher to decide on the suitable method to use within this reading lesson or writing lesson. So we are looking at the reading methods. The methods are not crafted and crafted. They can be woven. Methods may be combined or used alone, depending on you as the teacher, looking at which method fits for this lesson presentation. So the methods can be operated in isolation, applied in isolation, or they can be used together, combined. Teachers should be creative when teaching reading. Please, reading is not a product. It is a process. And therefore, creativity is important to keep their interest throughout the process of learning how to read. That is why the methods may be combined or used alone when need may be. The four main methods of reading are the phonics method, the look and say method, the language experience, and the context support method. Firstly, we are looking at the phonics method, which is considered or known as the best method to teach reading. Why? Because in this method, learners should be taught the alphabet first. And in most cases, before we teach them reading, the alphabet must have been done. They learn the alphabet letters and their sounds. They first know the letters, that the alphabet has 26 letters, and each of this letter has a different sound that needs to be blended. So bullet point number 4 says that the method, which is called the phonics method, relies on the knowledge of the alphabet and learn to blend them. You have 26 letters. From the 26 letters of the alphabet, only 5 of them are vowels and the rest are consonants. So what do you do with the consonants and the vowels? You then start to blend them to form sounds. These sounds create words. The phonics method, knowledge is applied to both familiar and unfamiliar words. It becomes very easy because you are now putting together the sounds, these letters, and then you form a word. So it becomes very easy for learners to learn how to read through the phonics method. They see the letters that they are commonly used to, and they put them together. They produce a sound which is pronouncing a word. The phonics method somehow could be boring if not presented or used in a very interesting manner. The look and say method, also known as the whole language approach, is different from the phonics method, as during the look and say method, the teacher's recognition of whole words or sentences is very important. It speaks for itself. Look and say. You look at the word and then you say it, or you look at the picture and then you say what the picture represents. So the teacher's recognition of whole words or sentences is applicable. The learners say words after the teacher. Flashcards with individual words written on them are used accompanied by words. As we have said, the method is called look and say. So you look at the flashcard, the picture that is there, and then you say the word that accompanies the picture. Generally, it is not a good method to use, as it won't be effective without pictures. It is not a good method at all, because in the absence of pictures, the learner becomes mute, has no clue of what is going on. So it is supported mainly by the pictures. In this case, learners make wild guess if there are no pictures, and that becomes terrible. It will frustrate you as a teacher. So it's best when you combine this with another method. And the third part of it, the look and say method, is that it encourages memorizing, the root learning. You just memorize that this picture is of a cat, so the word below must be cat. But sometimes you have a cat there and the word below is beautiful, which is now an adjective describing the cat. So it's not really an effective method if it has to be used solely, best when combined. The language experience. In the language experience method of reading, uses learners' own words to help them learn to read. Language experience, as you can see, it makes use of the learner's own words to help them learn how to read. Learners draw pictures of their environment or what they are familiar with. And then teachers, you as a teacher, write underneath this learner's drawing to capture what it is that they have drawn. So meaning what? It's language experience. Learners' own words are used to help them learn how to read through drawing of pictures, and you as the teacher write underneath the drawing. You compile these pictures into a book, which is a very interesting approach because later on the learners are able to use this picture book to read on what they have compiled. The language experience method supports concept development and vocabulary, as you can see. This is their original piece of work. The learners are using their own words through creativity. First they draw, the teacher writes beneath the drawing that this is a house, this is father, this is mother, and ultimately you compile all this together to create a reading book. So it supports the concept of development and vocabulary. The last method is the context support method. The context. Here the teacher select books that are of interest to the learners and then consider the gender interest, as we have said. What is it that boys are interested in and what is it that girls are interested in? Or perhaps even what is it that children of this age would be more interested in? The books where the learner's interest encourages enthusiasm, yes, because they can relate to. So context supporting. Let the context, let the content of the book support the interest of the learners. And how is this done? Through catering for both boys and girls. This method is used with long and short sentences or sometimes combined with other methods. Advisably, best when combined with other methods. The following slide will look at the hints. The hints are the clues. The hints are the guides that are used by readers to recognize words in a text. We just looked at the 4 reading methods. In addition to selection of appropriate picture books, now we're looking at the hints, the clues that can be used by readers to recognize words in the text. Readers use hints in the text to get an idea about the meaning of an unfamiliar word. This hint or clue is called context clue. Clue and hint are synonyms, similar meaning, or basically they mean the same thing. So readers who come across a new word in a text may rely on the context clue. Context clues allow readers to cross-check their identification of words. The reader should always cross-check to be sure that the word makes sense in terms of syntactic and semantic clues. Context clue has to do with the text itself, the context guiding you in finding the meaning of a word. When learners are reading, they come across unfamiliar words, which they mainly claim are difficult words because they are unfamiliar. So how do they proceed without stopping to read this text? Then it's the time they rely on this hint called context clue, whereby they look at the word before the unfamiliar word or the new word and the word that follows, just to infer, just to come up with the meaning of that specific word. There are 3 different types of context clues. One of them is the semantic, which is known as the meaning clue, the syntactic that comes from the word order, and lastly the picture clue. These are all hints that a reader may use in order to recognize words in the text. The use of semantic or the meaning clues. Semantic means meaning. The expectation about the subject. You expect to hear words associated with an object when the text is about it. So the meaning of this text is always guided to you by the words you hear or that are linked, associated to the text. For example, when the text is about a cat, what is your expectation? You'll be expecting to find words such as fur, brr, and whiskers. These are all associated with cat, perhaps even soft, we can add it there. The meaning to guide you on understanding the subject. So under semantic or meaning clue, the expectation is about the subject. Here you expect to hear words associated with an object when the text is about it. In syntactic, that has to do with word order clues, the focus now moves away from the subject. It has nothing to do with the meaning, but the word itself. So the focus is on the word order within the sentence, the arrangement of the words. Syntactic or word order clues indicates the part of speech of the missing word. Other parts of speech may not make sense if this part of speech is missing. Then the sentence will not make sense. So looking at the word order to infer meaning or understanding of the word, what do? You look at the different parts of speech within that sentence. Picture clues. The focus here is on illustrations that can help you in word identification. The picture will help you in word identification. If a picture accompanies a text, the word that describes it may be appropriate. You come across an unfamiliar word, then you'll be looking at the picture to guide you on the meaning of this word. Moving on, we are now looking at the importance of children's literature. As alluded to in the beginning of our presentation, we are first looking at all the reading components before we move to the writing and conclude our presentation. That's why we started off by looking at the selection of suitable reading picture books or reading books, followed by the reading methods that are very important to be used by teachers when teaching reading, after they have selected the most appropriate picture books. And now we went on to look at the hints, the clues that teachers can teach the learners in identifying or dealing with unfamiliar words within their reading articles. The semantic, the context, and the picture, as well as syntactic. Now we are looking at the importance of children's literature. Literature is very important. Literature captures all reading materials, the poems, the short stories, and so forth. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bullets looking at the importance of children's literature. Number 1 is that children's literature provides learners with opportunities to respond to literature. It teaches them to appreciate about their own cultural heritage as well as those of others. Especially living in a global village, it's very important that we get to learn about the different cultural heritage and appreciate them. Thirdly, it helps them develop emotional intelligence and creativity as portrayed or presented within those different literatures. Very important, it nurtures growth and development of the new learner's personality and social skills. Some learners are the only children at home, the only children of their parents, so they really don't get to mingle a lot with others. But through literature, they learn the importance or the difference between a nuclear family and an extended family. Therefore, children's literature is very important as it nurtures growth and development. In addition, it transmits important literature and themes from one generation to the next. And these themes are very important as they become part of our everyday cultures. Themes on the value of respect, themes on the discouragement of crime within different communities. So children's literature is very important as it transmits important stories and themes from one generation to the next. Now, in the development of a child's reading, there is a powerful importance of colors, numbers, shapes, matching and creating of patterns. So it is not time to play when we come across these young ones, the pre-primary or the primary learners, busy coloring, writing numbers, drawing shapes in the sand, creating patterns on their piece of paper. They are not confused. They are not just playing, but they're busy learning, because in the development of reading, there is a very important element of colors, numbers, and shapes. Colors are very important as they are a code, just as words are a code. Numbers and counting concepts, what do? They show children how one thing can represent another. The same thing in the written text. So numbers, colors, shapes are very important. In addition, knowing the difference between a circle, a square, a triangle is very important because it comes before the recognition of the distinct shapes of letters that must be distinguished in order to read. So shapes are very helpful in terms of preparing learners on how to read. Reading requires recognition or recognizing of patterns. There comes the issue of patterns. Matching objects or pictures is again another way for them to demonstrate that they recognize the similarities in terms of colors or shapes, and that they are able to apply them. So in the development of a child's reading, colors, numbers, shapes, and matching are very important element, as well as the creation of patterns. In addition to that, for these reasons, practicing this concept through play builds a great foundation for reading. So encourage the use of numbers, the use of shapes and matching, because it is preparing the learners on how to read. As we say, play is emphasized. You look for toys designed for preschool children that create opportunities for developing their understandings of the different concepts. Did you know that, or thought about it? Perhaps let me say, did you ever think about it, that when a child was learning to read, they made patterns, red, blue, with foam blocks. And we thought they were just playing with the colors. But this play is developmentally appropriate for those children because they are busy preparing themselves on how to read. Younger children do not need to recognize the letters of the alphabet to be building a foundation for reading and writing practice. They play through it. That's how they learn. In addition to familiarize the child with the alphabet, you will have toys that show the letters of the alphabet, sing the alphabet songs to them, and very important, practice the letters in their name. But the idea is that learning to recognize letters and their corresponding sounds is not the only way that they are beginning to read. It starts already with colors, numbers, shapes, and patterns, as we have said. So give play time. Play in terms of coloring, shapes, and matching items within the classroom. Well and good. We are moving on to look at ways in which teachers can motivate learners to read. We are still looking at reading as a very important aspect for pre-primary and junior primary learners. Ways in which teachers can motivate learners to read, and these are very important. You must motivate learners to read. As we have said before, reading is a process. That's why it starts with selecting the suitable picture books. You move on to selecting the most appropriate method to use. In addition, you look for hints and clues that will assist you to make reading fluent and easy, which involves, again, as we have said, in the development of reading, the colors, the patterns, the matching. Now you as a teacher must motivate learners to read through, you must demonstrate passion for reading. You need to act as a role model, a model reader. So you must be reading always to influence them, to make them also want to read. And demonstrate passion for reading so that as you are reading, they also want to read like you one day. Link the reading with learners' interests and goals so that they can relate the text that you are reading to what they know of, their interest. Very important, bullet point 4, encourage learners to use learned reading strategies when they are not sure about the text. I emphasize on that one, and this is what we looked at. You must encourage learners to use the reading strategies when they are not sure about the text. And this is which strategies? Back to what we said. The context clue, syntactic clue, semantic clue, and the picture clue. Make learning meaningful, taking into account age and interest. Provide a very rich and varied literacy environment. Rich in the sense that there are a lot of reading materials, and varied in the sense that there are different reading materials within this environment. Give learners opportunity to select their own reading materials. When they select what they want to read on that day from the reading corner that you have created in the class, this is what we're saying, a rich and varied literacy environment. It will help them develop a sense of control over their reading process. In addition, integrate reading into other activities. Yes, after they read, they can play, they can have some role play. After reading, they can respond to short questions. So integrate reading into other activities to show that it is an essential everyday skill. So it can start off with a role play. I think this would be the best one. Once they are fully, actively participating, then it can be followed with a reading comprehension passage. Short questions on what they have read. Lastly, you need to focus on internal reward of personal satisfaction and the achievement of goals that matter to the learner. You need to focus on internal reward to make sure that you touch each learner as an individual with the reading in class so that they are motivated Whatever they have selected to read on, you motivate on this. Reading assessment models. We have the first one, reading loud. Reading loud is a good one because they can hear what is being read to them. But it's not a reliable indicator of reading ability. Somebody is just reading loud, so we won't know how fluent they are or not. A learner who is capable of understanding text when reading silently may stumble when given to read aloud. And reading aloud is rarely done outside the classroom, so that is why we are saying it's not a reliable indicator of reading. Sorry. Reading loud is not authentic as a method of assessment because it does not test the learner's ability to use reading in order to accomplish a goal. However, it can help the teacher assess if the learners can see word endings and other grammatical features such as the punctuations. B, comprehension questions. These are all the reading assessment models. Comprehension questions are used to test the understanding of what is read. Comprehension questions should be coordinated with the purpose for reading, what we want to achieve. Comprehension questions, readers should have a purpose before reading them. That is the purpose of comprehension, meaning understanding. And it must allow learners to review questions before reading. And lastly, when reading is for enjoyment, comprehension is not applicable because it is just for relaxation. It's not for them to understand in order to respond to detailed questions. C, authentic assessment. Reading must reflect life uses. Authentic assessment must have a purpose other than assessment. Reading must have a purpose other than assessment. Authentic assessment has to do with learners who must demonstrate an understanding by completing a task. Consider responses in a non-classroom situation. For example, after reading the weather report, learners may decide on the clothing to wear the next day. So very important that it's authentic. Authentic assessment has to do with reading that must reflect the real life, the reality on the ground. It must be applied. Reading comprehension is what we are moving into. Reading comprehension to primary children or pre-primary is very important. It teaches children to think about personal experiences. As we have looked at the models, authentic reading, it must relate to the reality. When you are teaching reading comprehension to primary children, teach them to think about personal experiences related to what they are reading. To look at the text in order to discover how it has been organized. What happened first, next, and last. To look at pictures and the text to make predictions about what will happen next. Very important to conjure up mental pictures that reflect what they are reading, as well as to make deductions or to draw conclusions about what they are reading. Lastly, reading comprehension to primary children or pre-primary needs to do with paying attention to special samples such as the use of punctuations and to check their understanding often. Teach children to think about personal experience, very important, to look at the text in order to discover how it's organized, the beginning, the middle, and the end. To look for pictures in the text in order to make predictions, as well as to draw conclusions on what they have read. Now, we have looked at all these reading aspects. Now, we need to move towards the writing. Because you have your suitable materials, you have all the hints that you're going to use, you have the methods that you'll be using. So we need to look at the use of pencil. As they are starting to write at pre-primary and primary level, they're making use of pencil grip. It's a very important component that the ideal pencil grip is with a thumb, index, and middle fingers holding the pencil. This is clearly demonstrated in your study guides. Have a look at them. That pencil grip is with the thumb, the index, and the middle fingers holding the pencil. Those three fingers can move freely during writing because the ring and the little finger are curled gently into the palm, giving the hand stability. You place some color markers on the shaft of the pencil to show where to place the thumb and index finger. When you are teaching these learners on how to grip the pencil, is that you first teach them that the pencil grip is with the thumb, the index, and middle fingers. Why? Because they are all curled gently into the palm, Why? Because the other two fingers, the ring and the little finger, are curled gently into the palm, giving the hand stability. Then you place color markers on the shaft of the pencil to show where to place the thumb and the index for your learners. Explain why it is important to change their pencil grip. It's very important because it improves the quality and quantity of writing. What is it that you're going to write about? What they have been reading all along through the application of the different methods and the selection of suitable materials. Pencil grip continues. The focus should always be on one point at a time when they are busy writing, keeping the little finger and the ring finger still gently curled in, then the thumb position and index finger, and finally the middle finger. This is clearly demonstrated in your study guide. Go to the study guide and please show them, make use of this procedure on how to grip a pencil. Try using a triangular shaped pencil, which is especially good for those just learning how to write, which will be good practice for them to grip the pencil correctly. Molded pencil grip, this can assist, help improve the handwriting and building confidence in some of the learners. Coordination is another very important aspect under pencil grip. The fingers and the hand strength are key strength in being able to hold a pencil correctly. So coordination, there must be a link between the fingers and the hand. Now you are able to hold your pencil firm. You have a good reading ability. There are some very important practices for writing, early writing skills, classroom practices for early writing skills. And you can only practice writing once you are able to grip a pencil. So please enhance the grip of a pencil for the pre-primary and primary learners. Classroom practices requires a well-stocked writing center with a variety of paper and writing tools. In addition, other materials that support writing development are very important. Computer usage, an art center, and a rich writing materials room. These are the classroom practices for early writing skills. They are now able to hold a pencil firmly. So what do you need? Then you must have a well-stocked writing center that has a variety of paper and writing tools, the color pencils and all these materials, or as you call them, the stationaries. Other materials to support the development of writing are also important. Depends on your own discretion what you need for the class. Computer usage, an art center, and a rich writing material. In addition to that, activities are needed to develop pre-writing skills among pre-primary learners. These activities can be A, lacing and sewing. Lacing and sewing. These help learners. How? Learners will string macaroni on string or wool and sewing with heavy thread and plastic needles. Pre-primary children can handle large macaroni, while primary age learners can sew with smaller noodles. What are we doing here? These are just activities to develop their pre-writing skills. So this is in line with the previous slide where we looked at the best practices. You need a variety and a rich environment of where writing can take place. Using tweezers. Pick up small objects or small macaroni with tweezers and place them in a container while strengthening the finger and the hand muscles, which is necessary for later writing skills. So with these activities, they are busy practicing for future writing. Gradually with time, you reduce the size of the container opening because you are busy letting them practice on how to write, develop writing skills. C, pre-writing activities. Provide pre-writing activities to encourage appropriate finger control, break crayons and chalk into small pieces so that the child has to hold the pieces with the fingertips. What are you doing? You are encouraging appropriate finger control. Encourage imitating writing shapes from a model. For some children, using an easel or other vertical surface is helpful in strengthening the whole arm and hand. But for others, it's not. So light weights may need to be added to the rest to promote further strengthening. These are activities to develop pre-writing skills among pre-primary and primary learners, which these activities are taking place in the best practices. Now, mother tongue written materials used for developing teachers' own and learners' writing skills. The writing skills are applicable to both the learners and the teachers. There are mother tongue written materials that are used for developing the learners and teachers' own writing skills. Here, you as a teacher and the learners, you need to get as many storybooks and teaching aids in mother tongue, in which you will be teaching to assist your children to learn to read and write in their own mother tongue. You then compile your own storybooks from the different stories you have collected as a class. They will enjoy this because it is their own piece of work. And then it's easy for them to illustrate the stories. So you get many stories and teaching materials in mother tongue, home language. You compile your own story, creating a storybook. This becomes very enjoyable because it's their own work. Get in touch with some older people in the community. Please, they are very helpful. You ask them to tell stories to the children, write these stories down and compile a storybook that will be continuously used during the reading period in class. That will be continuously used during the writing period in class. It becomes easy because they can relate to them. Steps that can be used to help learners organize the stories. You see, we are moving from the stories that they have collected in their mother tongue, the stories that are compiled as a book. Now we are teaching them on the different organization method, the arrangement of the story. Steps that can be used to help learners organize stories. Step number 1, read 3 well-known fairy tales. Choose or select short stories that learners already know. Step 2, you need to ask learners to identify the characters in the story. Write this on the board, the different characters. Step 3, you ask the learners to identify the beginning, introduction, the middle, the body, and the ending of the story, which is the conclusion. Then you write all this on the board. Step 4, you hand out pencils and paper, there's no pen at pre-primary and primary. Then you instruct each learner to write a story with the characters, starting from the beginning, the middle, and the end. Step 5, write some story prompts. This is very good because it's guiding them towards the story. Some learners may have difficulty studying, so it's very important when you have some prompts. It guides them. And step 6, the last one, talk to each learner about his or her story. Ask about the characters, why they have selected or used these characters. Ask about the beginning, the middle, and the end to make sure that they achieve coherency. We're looking now at how learners can develop the introduction, which is the beginning, the middle, the body, and the closure, which is the conclusion in writing skills. First thing, you write a topic sentence. Sketch out ideas or reasons. Give details and examples to support the topic sentence. I hope we are following. We write down the topic sentence, and then we sketch out some ideas or reasons that are supporting the topic sentence. We give details and examples. Once we have this in place, we then draft, meaning we come up with a preliminary product that we do what? We reread and make some corrections in the draft. In addition, we need to edit to cross-check for the correct use of transitional words. Transitional words are the linking words, commonly known as the conjunctions. The use of capital letters in proper nouns at the beginning of the sentences, the use of punctuations, such as the period to indicate that the sentence has come to an end, or a comma for listing of ideas. A very crucial aspect, spelling, to make sure that all words are spelled correctly. Lastly, you need to revise. You need to revise your writing to make sure that you have stayed on the topic, you are not off topic, and have a concluding statement to round off your presentation. So very important, you start off with your topic sentence, you have some ideas and details that support the topic sentence, then you draft. After your draft, which is a preliminary, not the final product, you reread and make some corrections. Once that is done, you then edit. You check for the transitional words, use the capital letters, punctuation, and spelling. Lastly, revise before submitting any written text. Good. Activities to develop learners' introduction, middle, and closure continues. Activities to develop learners' introduction. Yay! Learners' introduction, middle, and closing. Write letters or email to relatives. This is one of the greatest activity that learners can use because they love to play, they love to invent names and tell stories. If learners enjoy writing activities, they will be more motivated to complete them. So the activity that you can use to develop learners' writing skills will be the writing of letters to a relative or an email. In addition to that, they must be able to illustrate stories by themselves. How? Drawing that add to the fun and creativity. Help learners to learn to express themselves when they are illustrating the stories. So this activity can help them develop the introduction, the middle, and the closing. Learners should give information that have an introduction, body, and conclusion always in order to have a logical flow of ideas. Make use of those activities. A good summary. When you are writing, summarizing is a very important aspect. A summary is an abridged presentation of the actual material, fully found on page 36 to 37 of your study guide. Therefore, a good summary should have the title, author, the type of text, and central concept. The sentences should be organized in a valid progressing manner. This you have taught them already, introduction, middle, and closing. You must exclude personal interpretation because you are only summarizing what was given to you. Use the present or historical tense. Summary should be shorter than the original text. Summary version should always contain all the important conclusions drawn in the original text. Read on page 36 to 37 on how to summarize. Summary writing tips. Ways to improve learners' writing. Give positive feedback always. Incorporate writing into fun activities. Don't rush writing because it is a process just like reading. And very, very important, get extra help if need may be. Recognize when extra help is needed. Often learners respond well to having a personal writing tutor. Don't rush over writing. Incorporate this writing into fun. Let it not be abstract. Give positive feedback. It will motivate them to continue writing. And the last aspect, very important with any teaching, is the assessment. Assessment refers to the continuous monitoring of the competencies of learners through observation or testing. The purpose of assessment: why do we assess? To gain reliable and valid information for the learner's performance, to inform the parents about the progress in terms of weakness and strength of their learners, to inform you as the teacher of problems experienced during the learning process, ultimately to evaluate the teaching and learning process in order to improve on your teaching methodologies, to continually improve the working atmosphere and achievement of the class. Assessment for learning versus assessment of learning. Very, very important. There are two types of assessment. The informal assessment that involves setting up assessment during class continuously. It is important for teachers to plan in order to assess the learners continuously, informally. And then we have the formal assessment, which involves learners are observed for assessment during lesson and marks are awarded for final feedback to the parents. It involves observation of each learner's progress in learning and practice situation. Good. Lastly, to round off, which is the end of our presentation, ladies and gentlemen, I want to emphasize that education is the greatest equalizer, and no crisis, not even this economic crisis, can alter the worth of what you know. Nobody will take it away from you. Therefore, take time to read through your study guide, to go through the keywords, the verbs in each and every question. In addition to that, continue listening to our content-based presentation. It will support the study guide units as well as previous or old question papers, as you call them, in preparation for the exams or completion of your assignments. I thank you very much, and good luck with your exams and assignments.